Culturally Clueless.
All right, you guys. All right, you guys. I see a lot of people upset on the internet over Sadia Khan. You guys remember that pretty girl, that psychologist or therapist, whatever she is, that gives like relationship advice and how to be a quote unquote like high value woman. That woman apparently charges $8,000 an hour to give advice, but now she was exposed to be a side chick, and everybody is absolutely upset with it. And I don't get why. I really don't understand why. I mean, she's still speaking from experience. Like, trust me, she knows what it means to be a side chick. She knows what it means to be a main. So, no matter what, she knows what she's talking about. So you guys shouldn't get too upset about it. Leave Sadia Khan alone. Like, it's too funny. With that said, welcome to a brand new episode of Culturally Clueless, and salam alaikum.
Culturally Clueless.
All right, you guys, I am back with a brand new episode. I know I wasn't here last week because there was some traveling going on and some working on other projects going on. So stay tuned for that because there is something coming, something in the pipeline. It's going to be a very long time until it's ready, but I'm working on something. I'm not away for no reason. I want to take a moment, and I just want everyone to like take a moment and really be grateful. Grateful for what we have, grateful for where we are, grateful for our life on a whole. And even if life sometimes is very challenging, and even if we have like a lot going on and certain things seem like unmanageable, but I just still need people to remember to be grateful every now and then for even the simplest thing, for even water, for even have like electricity, for having two healthy hands, or having a friend or two, or a family, or food, or anything. Whatever you find to be grateful for, like try to be grateful for it. Or not even try, be grateful for it. And of course, we're going to kick off with a lot of things that have been happening. And this is the crazy part. Sometimes you have a week, there's not much going on, and then you'll have another week and everything is going on at once. And it's super hard for me to be like, okay, what am I going to talk about? Because yes, I could sit here for 3 hours, but who wants to hear me talk for 3 hours and blah, blah for 3 hours? Like, nobody really cares. Let's be real about it. Okay. I know that many people listen to this like in many sittings and not just like in one full part. So that's why I always have to be very, very, very like, what am I talking about? What am I not talking about? And then I feel bad because there are many things that I should be talking about. And anyways, let's move on. Let's get started. Not even move on. Let's get started. I want to talk about last time I was here, and that was 2 weeks ago, right? We talked about the assassination of journalists. You guys probably know by now that there is more journalists assassinated. But before we get to that, I want to talk about the 620 athletes and sports people that were assassinated over the past 23 months. 620. Can you imagine? 620. Okay, I want to talk about Alalam. He's a long distance runner, and he was queuing up to get food, at this GHF queue, that great foundation that's supposed to bring food to the people. And he was hit in the head, and he did not survive, obviously. He won 2 bronze medals, I think, in 2,000 meters race. I think it was in the youth category in Qatar. And he's not the only one. Like a week ago, there was, or even a week and a half ago, there was a basketballer, Muhammad Shahal. Oh my God, Muhammad Shahal. Muhammad Shahal. Yeah, that's it. Oh my gosh, guys, I'm so sorry. What is this? So I don't know. Like I'm so sorry because today I'm a little bit all over the place. Like This day was never ending, and then I had like a very emotional conversation with someone. It got me very emotional, so I'm a little off. But nevertheless, let's get to work. So he's a professional basketball player. He played for Al Barij club, basketball club, and he won 2 premier titles and Gaza Championship as well. And his nickname was the Earthquake because of his skills. And he was also queuing up.
Yesterday, on August 2025, Muhammad went to GHF, waited in an aid line in Khan Yunis with the hope of getting food for his 6 children, including Maryam. He was unalived, waiting for aid. And he is just one of more than 620 professional players in Palestine since October 2023 that have been unalived by Izzy.
Can y'all believe this? It's just insane. I don't get it. I really don't get it. These people are supposed to bring food to the people in need, okay? And they claim they do so. But for some strange reason, too many people get assassinated when they're queuing up for the food that they're supposedly bringing. Oh, by the way, I spoke to somebody yesterday from Gaza. At the moment, they are excited because they have apples. One apple costs $7, y'all. $7. Oh no, sorry, it was a kilo of apple that cost $7 in Gaza. We're not talking about the US or we're not talking about the West where these prices are normal. No, no, no. We're talking about Gaza. And I couldn't say it. But my train of thought always goes to remember the contaminated meat flour and all of that canned food that was gone off. I wonder what pesticides or whatever poisons is in these apples. So we have more journalists that were assassinated. Hussam al-Masri, he worked for Reuters. And this was in a double attack, right, on the Al-Nasser hospital. They attacked it. Then the aid workers came to help. The journalists came to report and see what's actually happening, what's actually going on. And the next strike happened.
They were killed as they were displaced from a place to another. Palestinian journalists are not only reporting this, but they're also living it every single day. Maryam was a mother. She left now her children, just like thousands of Palestinian children that are now without any parents after the Israeli forces killed their parents.
Mohammed Salama, he was working for Al Jazeera. Muhasab Taham, he was a freelance photographer. And Ahmed Abu Aziz, he was working for the Middle East Eye. And Maryam Abu Daqqa, she was a photojournalist. She documented, for example, the March of Return in 2020, in 2018, in 2019. She was in this business for like a decade. And in this march, for those who don't know, this is when a bunch of people from Gaza made their way to the wall to call for an end of the blockade. 223 people were assassinated. One of them was her brother. She captured that assassination, and she realized later that it was her brother. She's a mother. She has a son, and she left him a letter. Because all of these journalists, all of these aid workers, and many, many other people, but especially journalists and aid workers, all of these targeted people that are like, they leave these letters behind, these wills, these messages for the world to read, and it's heartbreaking. That's why I never come here and I never want to read the messages because they are absolutely heart-wrenching and I can't. And this letter was as well, so I couldn't come with the whole letter because I would get too emotional and I don't want to. When she talked to her son in a letter, she asked him not to cry and to make her proud. She wants him to be strong and resilient and become a grounded businessman. And she's asking him not to forget her She said that she worked so she would be able to give him everything he needs. And she says, when you grow up and get married and you have a daughter, give her my name, Mariam. And she asked him to pray and pray and pray and never stop praying. She was only 33, and she seemed to be a remarkable human being. She gave one of her kidneys to her dad. She lost her mother in the past 23 months to cancer because lack of treatment and all. You guys know about it. She was able to evacuate her son and her husband and her father, but she never wanted to leave herself. And this is, again, a signed death certificate. And what does Israel do? They claim that it was a mistake. It was a mishap. They're going to investigate it. Like they always say, right? Just a mishap, just a problem. We're going to investigate it. And nobody cares what happens with that investigation, because the only people that are allowed in Gaza are paid influencers so that they can make some propaganda and, talk about the amount of food that is there so that people online and wherever can lose the reality of the food blockade that's been happening for months. Since we're talking about journalists, let's stick with them, because there is more going on. Journalists are being silenced, okay? Yes, they're not being assassinated in the West so far. Not so far, at least. But somebody like Sean King, really? Sean King, for example. His tweets were really were deleted on X. A couple of weeks ago, it was, when it was very hot, this Tom Alexandrovich, that guy that was caught in a sting operation in Vegas, trying to lure a 15-year-old boy, what was he, cyber boss or whatever, cybersecurity boss of Israel. And then he was arrested, and then he ran off to Israel. And I know the prosecutor is upset about it, but they let him go. They should have removed his passport, which they didn't. So Tommy Boy was able to flee to the safe haven for pedophiles and for sex offenders.
The irony of it goes even deeper. The organization within Israel, the government agency that asked for X to remove the post, was the very agency Tom Alexandrovich heads. So the cover-up just gets worse and worse by the minute. Ultimately, what we've discovered now with this case.
Yeah. And then Netanyahu lied and said he was never arrested. Nothing ever happened. Boy. I don't know what to say anymore to this. It's ridiculous. So it came out that Israel was responsible and asked X to delete his tweets when he was tweeting about him. Sean King has been silenced for such a long time. Like, Sean King, I don't think he had, whether you like him or not, right? But he has been heavily attacked for the past decade. I want to say decade. Man. And now let's go to a testimony, to a speech of a journalist that was working for the BBC, and she was fired by LBC London Talk Radio. She had a speech where she was talking about what's going on. She was calling out the censorship of journalists. She was calling out what journalists have to face, and you know what? And it's nowhere near about what the journalists in Gaza have to face. They are the strongest, most resilient people, because knowing that this will end with you giving your life, you are literally giving your life just to be able to report. Your legacy is set forever. It's set in stone.
Since 7th October 2023, Israel has killed an unprecedented number of Palestinian journalists. Many of them have been smeared by Israel and its supporters. Those false claims have been endlessly repeated by so-called prestige news outlets across TV, radio, newspapers, and websites.
And that's what gets me. You know, these people have nothing left anymore, but they're willing to risk their lives. And you have weak people over here who are not willing to risk an ounce of anything for even way smaller things. It's not even about risking your life or risking anything. People don't want to get uncomfortable anymore. People don't want to face the truth anymore. People don't want to. It's more convenient and more comfortable to live a lie. You should be ashamed of yourself, really. You should be ashamed of yourself, all of you people. So this is a very interesting speech because she talks about how people are being attacked, how people are being slandered, how people are losing opportunities, you know, and it's really insane. I mean, there's also, to be honest, there's also journalists who are completely like done with this. They are no longer interested in reporting because apparently they cannot report truthfully. So they don't want to be part of it, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. They just, you know.
Humanitarian workers have been saying it for months. The horrifying pictures have been screaming the excruciatingly painful truth for a long time. Now it's official. There is a famine in war-torn Gaza. According to a report by UN-backed Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, or IPC, a famine has been confirmed in the Gaza.
It's a basic right. It's a fundamental right that we have as citizens of this planet. We have the right to know what's going on without it being disguised, without it being you know, hidden, or I don't know. And since we're talking about the journalists in Gaza, I want to talk about Gaza a little bit, but I also want to talk about the West Bank. We barely talk about the West Bank here, and this is actually totally wrong and fatal. But let's start in Gaza. So many organizations over the past couple of months have finally confirmed it, as I already said so many times. We all said it. The whole world has been screaming it everywhere that there is a famine in Gaza. Okay, there is level 5 starvation. And I want to say something, you know, Sudan had also level 5 starvation. We're going to talk about Sudan in this episode a little bit later. But yeah, so many different organizations, so many. There's people who are literally being assassinated for queuing up, as we talked about, you know. 132,000 children are starving, malfunctioning, are sick from not eating. Like, we're not even talking about all of the injuries and everything that they're going through, the illnesses, the sicknesses, the diseases. We're not even talking about this. We're just talking about starvation. It's just about starvation. And what happens? What is the only democracy in the Middle East doing again? Of course, denying it. Blaming, guess who? Yes, the resistance. Blaming the resistance. You guys, Mehdi Hassan, check this out.
You made a false trend. Let me say this, not just the IPC. Over 100 humanitarian aid groups from around the world just signed a joint statement saying Israel is blocking them from bringing in aid. You want us to believe you, the Israeli military, Netanyahu, Smotrich, but not ANERA, Christian Aid, the Danish Refugee Council, the Norwegian Refugee Council, Polish Humanitarian Aid, Pax Christi, Sabeel Kairos, Oxfam, Doctors Without Borders, Save the Children. I could go on and on, Danny. Are you going to say they're wrong?
Oh my gosh, this guy is so on point. So on point, so on point, so on point. There's, you can say whatever you want about Mehdi, but he's on point so many times. And he says it. And my thing is, I have just one question, and I wish Mehdi or any of these people would ever ask this question. I mean, I don't rely on Piers Morgan for that, but I hope Mehdi at some point asks this question. Can these people actually answer a question without mentioning the Hamas Is this somehow possible? Or is it that they have to always be dragged into their responses? Like whatever it is, we have to mention them just because, just to make sure that. I'm just wondering, just wondering, just wondering if we can actually ever get a response from these people without mentioning Hamas. Like, why is it that we always have to mention them? I'm asking you, well, not me, but Mehdi, whoever is asking you a question pertaining to whatever that is that you did, but we have to somehow find a way to drag Hamas into it and blame them. This should be very, 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 very suspicious to people. And there's a lot of like propaganda going on how Pollywood, that's what they call it. Like they call it Pollywood when there are videos of starving children, dying children, body pieces, or anything that is out there that actually looks like the atrocities that they're committing. When we see them on video, they call this Pollywood. And they say, and this is all Pollywood, it's all rehearsed, it's all scripted, it's everything. But guess what? AP fact check. Yes, they did it. They fact checked it. They fact checked the video. And they checked the video with different girls next to each other. There was a thorough investigation. The pics posted online and everything that they claimed were taken from a different war zone and all of this, and saying, oh, this is rehearsed, look at this, look at that, like whatever. But AP fact checked it. And they're saying it's not true. None of this is true. Whatever kids they claim is the kids that actually happened. There is no script. There is no rehearsed commentary. There is nothing, So watch this video and you will see exactly what I'm talking about.
So let's break it down. The post, shared by the Israel Institute of New Zealand on Facebook, places two videos side by side, with arrows pointing to two young girls in both, implying that they're the same children. But AAP Fact Check determined that these are not the same girls, and the footage of them rehearsing their lines was filmed 2 weeks after the footage from the charity kitchen. The first clip, showing families desperate for food at a charity kitchen, was filmed on May 2nd.
So if Pollywood is the videos that we're seeing and the ongoing atrocities, they can put an end to Pollywood real fast. And Izzywood, with the victimhood, they can go elsewhere. Let's talk about the West Bank. I wonder what their excuse is there as well. I mean, it's probably also Hamas or it's everybody else. I don't know what they're talking about. There is so much going on in the West Bank. Check this out. Like a lot of settlers really, assassinating activists and soldiers arresting relatives of the activists. There's so much displacement. This is a daily occurrence, guys. Just because we never talk about it or people don't talk about it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It definitely elevated since October 7, but it was there before. This is something that has been going on in the West Bank, where homes been being occupied in the middle of the night. Children has been awakened. People have been awakened. People have been beaten, physically abused and all of the stuff. So people are literally being terrorized. I cannot say it any other way. And this is daily. There's so many displaced families. Like in 1 week, they managed to displace 23 families. Okay, that's insane. And it's all about this annexing the West Bank. The cabinet already agreed on it. The majority voted. I think it was a vote 72 to 23 or something like that. Yes. Exactly. Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, obviously at the forefront of all of this, 971 Palestinians have been assassinated since October 7 in the West Bank. And many arrested. There are like over 20,000 in Israeli prisons. Okay? Check this.
Death to Arabs. That's what young Israelis chanted as they stormed a bus to attack Palestinian driver Muhammad Abed al-Hadi. In July, a settler shot and killed Palestinian activist Auda al-Hatlin, and soldiers arrested his relatives.
wild to me. Literally, that's wild. I don't understand how people can support this. So the outrage is getting bigger, and we love it, but it's not enough. It's nowhere enough. Okay, there's a lot that happened, so let's get to some things, make it fast and quick before we have some more interesting topic, I hope. Let's talk about Operation Lucky Drop. Yes, you guessed it. It's an operation Israel did. They assassinated the Yemeni Houthi Prime Minister, Ahmed Gharif, oh my God, Al-Rawahi. I don't know why I have so many problems of late with these Arabic names. Subhanallah al-Azim. And he was not the only one that was arrested. There were other officials arrested as well. You know what the funny part is of all of this is? This is actually a war crime.
I can't believe this isn't getting wall-to-wall coverage, but Israel just assassinated the Prime Minister of Yemen and also took out a bunch of Yemeni ministers. And they were targeted and unalived by Israel during a routine government meeting to assess the yearly performance of the Yemeni government. And with this crazy attack where they took out the Prime Minister of a state, Israel has now escalated their attacks from targeting civilian infrastructure in Yemen to now going after government officials. And yet no condemnations from...
And so Israeli intelligence figured out that they had a meeting, there was a workshop with all of these government officials. So they thought, what a great opportunity. Why not? Imagine, it was the prime minister and 12 other ministers and government officials. Okay? Subhanallah, seriously, subhanallah. Okay, let's talk about something very different. Okay, this is a completely different topic, but we have to talk about it. This is actually really, really important, and I need all the people in the US to very much listen. And not just the people in the US, because if it happens in the US, be assured it happens in your country too. I promise you that. Okay, because that's how it works. And you can research your own country and figure it out. There was a funding cut for like germ monitoring within food. Okay, the CBC pared down food monitoring. Okay, a couple of months ago this happened apparently, because they can now only monitor 2 germs, and that is Salmonella and some sugar text producing yeah. So Salmonella and another one. I don't know what I wrote down here, bro. Like seriously.
The food safety system that normally monitors for different germs had to pare down the 8 that they routinely monitor down to just 2. That's right. They're paring it down to just 2 germs that they're actively looking for at the federal level. So right now, they're only looking for Salmonella and Shiga toxin producing E. coli. Before, they were looking at Campylobacter, Cyclospora, Listeria, Shigella, Vibrio, and Yersinia.
There is not enough money to literally monitor the food properly. So at the end of the day, I mean, a couple of years ago, they came with this whole, we're eating insects in our food because it's much cheaper and so on and so forth. So there's always something else. But now that they are just apparently relying on state level food safety, which does not even have enough money either, there's going to be a lot of more food illnesses. Sounds fun, right? It's insane. And I promise you this happens in your country too. Because all this GMO food and all of these weird pesticides, you know, like I think it was what's his name? Oh my gosh, one of the guys that I hate the most. What? I want to say Elon Musk, but it's the other guy. Oh my God, Gates. Yeah, Bill Gates. He owns this. Is it Quilt or whatever he owns? Is this weird pesticide that when you spray it on food, then the food can be like 4 weeks old, but it looks like it was picked up yesterday. Okay, next news. flesh. We have so the UK wheelchair basketball players did something very cool. There was a wheelchair basketball games. Okay, it was the UK team playing the Israeli team, and what the UK team did is they turned their backs when the Israeli anthem was playing. The Israeli players didn't see it and didn't notice it right away because they were not looking. They were faced the other way, and of course, Israel is outraged because they found out later when they saw the videos and when they saw, online, like people talking about it and whatnot. So they lost the game and they lost their minds also because, of course, it's anti-Semitic. They filed a complaint with the wheelchair basketball governing body. So let's see what happens. I mean, at this point, seriously, you guys just need to be eliminated from all sports.
Needless to say, the Israeli contingent were very angry with the British players, especially because they couldn't just order a drone strike against the British team. Unable to then systematically starve the British players, the Israeli contingent then filed a complaint with Wheelchair Basketball's international governing body, urging them to take action and sanction the British players. It's always funny when Israel goes to an international body, as we all know how much Israel likes to abide by international rules and norms.
So we have another thing about sports, another little news flash about sports. So Norway, FIFA, again, let's talk about. Norway announced that all money raised from the FIFA qualifying games will be dedicated to the children in Gaza. Ain't that amazing? That is actually good news. That is something absolutely amazing. So kudos to them. Absolutely well done. Well played. And these funds will be transferred through a UN organization and Israel organization. This is what always happens, by the way. We're going to have in maybe next week or the week after, I'm going to talk about Norway a little bit more because Norway plays a crucial role in when it comes to funding for Palestine. And I don't think that many people know that. So we need to talk about it. But so don't be surprised. This is nothing unusual that's happening here. And this is also done to ensure accountability so that the money arrives where it needs to arrive and it needs to go where it needs to go. But guess what Izzy did? Guess what? First, they condemned it. Then they said this is anti-Semitic. Then they said, and this is now the highlight of it all, of all of their outrage and all of their crying and all of their victimhood. This money should go to the victims of October 7th. This is hilarious, right? This is hilarious. And guess what? Norway did something major cool. Like their response, their clapback was real. They clapped back on a whole different level. So they pulled out, okay? And this is it. This is what I'm talking about. This is where it hurts the most. They pulled out their investments of 11 large Israeli companies. And they said that they will redirect their resources to support the children in Gaza. Yay! Ain't that amazing? It couldn't have been a better clapback. It couldn't have been. It's impossible, because that's where it hurts the most. Where the money at? So FIFA, of course, they didn't respond. And now we got to talk about Norway again, because something actually very tragic happened in Norway. An Ethiopian woman, 34 years old, Tamima Debrasjua, she was actually assassinated at her workplace. She works for a child service organization. And she was assassinated by an 18-year-old. This is something I just...
On Sunday, a 34-year-old black woman, Tamima Nibras Juhar, originally from Ethiopia, was killed at her workplace in Oslo in a child services institution. She was murdered by an 18-year-old European male in an act of right-wing extremism. I'm told by a friend that Tamima was highly educated, interested in justice and international conflicts, and was a very caring person.
That's what I'm saying. Like this whole thing that's happening, this whole influence of social media, let me tell you something about social media real quick. All of you people who sit 23 hours on social media lost the plot. Social media is great. You can connect with people. You can sell your products. You can make business. You can find friends. You can learn something. You can teach. You can have exchange. You can do so many things. It's great. But when people dedicate their whole life to social media, 23 hours, to a medium that is way too young to be discovered fully, its effect on the brain of people. Like, mind you, social media is very young. 20 years is nothing. And 20 years, it was just like the baby steps. Now it got bigger in 2010, 11, and so on and so forth. There's more and more platforms coming, more and more people joining. But I'll tell you something, you guys need to find something else to occupy your time with or to learn from. You sitting on these apps like Instagram, like TikTok, and literally just listening to other people blabber is not it. It's really not it. Because you don't even realize how much it affects you and how much you become addicted to it, right? And some people, like this 18-year-old, they're going to be influenced by this shit. And excuse my French. They're going because it really irks me, right? If you have like 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 45 years old, 50-year-old people sitting there daily for hours, bro, don't you get it that something must be wrong with you? Find something to do. Find a life. Be active, be creative, do something. But sitting there, listening to other people the whole day is not healthy. I'm not saying you can't do that once, you can't do that twice a week. I'm not saying you can't sit there for 3 hours, 4 hours here and there, whatever. But every day, religiously, this is where you lose focus. This is where you lose what's important. And without even realizing that, and I'm not preaching, y'all, I see this. I actually see this happening. Anyways, this kid was 18. He was of Serbian heritage, apparently, and he was very right-wing. And he confessed to assassinating her. And he says basically it was politically charged. And now he's charged with murder linked to terrorism. Yeah. But terrorist intent, I should say. This is extremely sad. Extremely, extremely sad. So guys, don't take it as me preaching, but honestly, think about it. Look into it. Look into yourself. Right, let's talk Australia. Listen, I've never in my life heard so much about Australia like in the past 23 months. Well, not even 23 months. Make it like, I don't know, make it just this year. Okay, just this year. Like Australia entered the chat and they're like all up in the chat now and they're not leaving whatsoever. So now they expelled the Iranian ambassador, okay, because he allegedly was involved in anti-Semitic attacks in Sydney and Melbourne last year, like October and November.
Mediator Qatar says it's still waiting for Israel's response to a Gaza truce and hostage release deal. Hamas agreed to the framework more than a week ago. US envoy Tom Barak says Lebanon will present a plan on Sunday aimed at persuading Hezbollah to disarm, with Israel expected to submit a corresponding framework for its military withdrawal.
Bruh. This is the first time after the Second World War this country has actually made such a move. Man, I should have looked up who they kicked out before. And basically, they're saying that Iran is undermining Australia's cohesion, social cohesion. Really? And Iran has the time for all of this? Like, Iran is not like, having like more serious issues, but to cause like anti-Semitic attacks. And let me tell you something, bro. There's so many anti-Semitic accounts that are happening because of what's going on. Anti-Semitism is on a rise. Islamophobia is on a rise. Of course, this is all rising. There is so many different attacks, so many different things happening, right? Because of what's going on. So Iran, and I'm not defending Iran, right? But Iran didn't need to do this. You guys do this all on your own. You cause all of this on your own.
The medication I'm talking about is Ozempic. Many of you have heard of it already. I've talked about it before. These people in the commercials dancing of happiness, right? Because they've got their type 2 diabetes under control or they're losing weight. And yet the side effects, guys, losing vision. Guys, people are losing their vision. People's stomachs are no longer working properly, right?
And you guys remember Ozempic. There is many other different medications like Ozempic, Trulicity, Mounjaro, Wegovy. There's a bunch out right now. They suppress your hunger. They suppress your appetite. It works with this hormone. It is to actually combat diabetes type 2. There was a lot of successes in that, and then all the celebrities started taking it and losing a bunch of weight and all of this. But now there is a lawsuit for $2 billion. Why? Because of the side effects. There's plenty side effects. There's constant vomiting. There is kidney problems, gallbladder issues. There is vision loss. There is the stomachs are not working properly anymore. Like, there's a blockage in people's stomachs, so they cannot really digest and cannot really, So there is this $2 billion lawsuit going on to Ozempic in particular. I mean, they made a lot of money. Like, seriously, they made so much money with it. It's ridiculous. And, there's also like bone is like getting weird. And it's just like the bone's getting weaker, not weird. I told you guys, excuse my my vibe today. So there's a lot going on with Ozempic. And all of the side effects that people were not aware of and were not warned of. And a lot of people, when they went with these side effects to the hospital, was like, oh, no, it's nothing. They couldn't figure it out. But because it was that super drug, right, that made people's life so much better. Now you look better. Now your diabetes is in check. But I don't know. I can tell you something, though, but it's a secret. Don't tell anyone. I never lost weight with Ozempic. I tried it for only a little bit, though. All right, let's talk about something serious. Rwanda. So we guys know that Rwanda was supposed to be the place for the UK to deport their migrants to, and they invested so much money into Rwanda to actually have the accommodation set up. And I think it was, I'm not sure if it was 300 million pounds.
7 people have landed in Kigali this mid-August under a new agreement with Washington. Government spokesperson Yolande Makolo says 3 of them have asked to return to their countries of origin, while 4 want to remain in Rwanda and start their new lives. Earlier this month, Kigali announced it would accept up to 250 migrants with the right to approve each case individually.
It was a huge number anyway. So they invested all of this number, we could see at some point, I saw a video a while back. It was like basketball courts. Like, they try to make it nice. But in Rwanda, y'all, where 60% of the population don't even have flowing water and electricity, that's where you want to deport all of these migrants to. Like, some of them come from war zone countries, and you want to deport them to Rwanda. Like, people in Rwanda don't already have enough problems, but Rwanda, mind you guys, Rwanda is involved, right? Rwanda is backing the M23 militia in the Congo, okay? The Rwanda genocide, there's so much going on. I don't know, Rwanda is weird. They need to do something about Rwanda. Like, they need to clean up Rwanda. And, I mean, there's a lot of work to be done in Africa for it to be really liberated. And shout out to Ibrahim Traore. So There were people deported from the US now, because after the UK, after that project failed, that was Rishi Sunak who wanted it, and Gabriella, what is her name? Oh, Suella Braverman. I was hoping I never had to talk about her ever again, but yeah, okay. So that project failed because human rights organizations really, really went hard, stopping airplanes and everything from taking off. But then Germany wanted to take that over, and that was like, I guess, dismissed as well. Now the US deported people there. So 7 people arrived from the US so far. 3 wanted to go back to the country of origin. They didn't want to stay. And 4 of these people wanted to start and attempt a new life in Rwanda. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. There's still more migrants that have been deported, but they are like, there's a process of approving them and everything. So they say there's at the moment 250. And let's see when this will actually happen, because it's going to take a while and for them to be approved, I guess. So let's wait and see what happens. Okay. I'm very curious to see how far they're going to take this weird project. Now I want to talk about a story, guys, that I only have seen this one video about it. And I had to go and look into it myself. I never heard of this brand. I never heard of this lady, unfortunately. But I'm so happy that I came across this video. And it's a story that needs to be highlighted. It's a story that needs to be talked about. And that is a woman called...
Sharon Shooter was a powerhouse in the beauty industry. She was a Nigerian-born executive who worked at L'Oreal, LVMH, and Revlon before she started her own brand, Uma Beauty. She was known for Pull Up for Change and Make It Black, where she really forced these beauty companies to face the uncomfortable truth about representation and inclusion. At the time of her passing, she was in a lawsuit.
She worked 2 decades in the beauty industry. She worked for L'Oreal, for Benefit, for so many different high class companies, very known companies, I should say. She created Uma Beauty to be more inclusive, because that's the one point that a lot of these, if not most actually, of these beauty companies are missing. There is no inclusion. Like there's so many Black women not finding or struggling to find their right shade when it comes to foundation. Like when I have, it's really insane. Like I have my Black friends, when they talk about it, when they try to get a shade, like it's very hard. I mean, yeah, Fendi, Riri's Fendi came along, not Fendi, Fenty. Oh my God. I don't even know, bro. Should I really continue this episode? Seriously. So Fenty Beauty came along, Riri. She had more shades. A lot of people felt like, okay, it's catered to them. But Uma Beauty had 50 different shades, y'all. Okay, 50 different shades. And she used icons like Diana Ross and Nina Simone. Okay. She had vibrant eyeshadows, like everything, basically. Now, this woman was sick at some point, and according to her, because she sued. No, let me back up a little bit. So she was on sick leave, and something crazy happened. She felt that she was being bullied out of her own company. Okay, by another company called MacArthur LLC. These are the new owners of Uma Beauty. Like Cheryl doesn't own Uma Beauty anymore. Okay, she hasn't been for a little while now. She was on medical leave. She felt like she was pushed out. She felt like she was still, she still had shares. She still had say in that company, but she was kind of like kicked out by those people. And the company was sold to them for $6.2 million. Mind you, this company was gauged at a worth of $50 million. And shout out to Sheldon. What an amazing achievement. But the 6.2 just barely covered the debts. And she felt this was fraudulent. She felt betrayed by the people that bought it, the MacArthur LLC, and apparently they bought it with the Brain Trust Fund, which is a trust fund that helps Black women financially when it comes to wellness and beauty businesses. Okay, so this whole thing, she sued them February of 2025 because she felt it was fraudulent. She was pushed out. She was on sick leave. It's amazing to me. I don't even know how to say it without. This is not even. This is no conspiracy. I'm not conspiring or anything. But for some strange reason, it's not a one-off. It's not a unique thing. But this woman is dead. She died on August 14, just a couple of weeks ago. 6 months, roughly 6 months later after suing those people. And yeah, she was sick, granted. She had health issues. And her death is still under investigation. So I think we have to wait and see what they come out with, if they actually let us know. Guys, these stories are important to know because these people are worth to be remembered. These people were somebody, apart from, I don't do the whole celebrity hype or the people hype or, all of this, but it was a real person. It was a person that changed many people's lives. And yeah, you could say, well, it's just makeup. But just the fact, it's an achievement. And I can only imagine, like, we get hurt so often by little things, but if somebody takes your livelihood, something you build, your dream, your vision, and runs with it, it's a different level. So yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I came in here and I was like, I made some jabs at the Joe Budden podcast for being so weird to Mark Lamont Hill for not knowing how to pivot out of the situation when he speaks about Gaza. I know pivoting is very difficult for all of us, but bro, this can be the reason why we don't talk about things. And also from this very sad story, I need to move on, and I need to talk about something that's also very important. And guess what? Yes, I know, editor, I know it annoys you. It's once again Israel. Yeah, but it's Turkey. Turkey actually announced that they cut all trades or almost all trades with Israel. There is no trading goods anymore, no commercial shipping, port and airspace access, nothing. Okay, they completely cut it down. But
we all know the Turkish government doesn't give a fuck about Gaza. The real reason is that there's a proxy war happening between Turkey and Israel behind the scenes over influence in Syria. And it's getting extremely serious. Ever since the fall of Assad, there's been a secret war of influence between these two over control of Syria. Israel, for example, really wants to destabilize Syria.
One thing is still continuing, and that's the BTC, and that is the bucket Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline. Okay, this pipeline goes through Turkey, and it supplies Israel with 40% of their oil, which is coming from Azerbaijan. So the deal really and truly is between Azerbaijan, where Azerbaijan supplies Israel with that oil, but it goes through Turkey to get to Israel, and these pipelines are still working. So these pipelines are used to actually distribute the world's oil, or the oil to the world. Okay, and this is a big economical statement that Turkey has made, because it's actually entailing $7 billion yearly benefit that they are losing out on with stopping all of the goods, the trading from goods and stuff like that, which is a big statement, and which is definitely a start, and the Turkey population, the civilians are very, 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 very upset with what's happening in Gaza. But don't get it twisted. Don't think for a second that the Turkish government did this out of the goodness off of their heart, because they have so much empathy with Gaza and they want to help. No. There is always a bigger picture and a bigger plan in this. There's always. It's going to be beneficial to them in the long run, and since the civilians are very, very upset, they have to react, because this just brings more calmness into the country, and more calmness just means like less stress and everything. And they're not cutting off the pipelines as of yet, because honestly 40% is a lot. It's a lot of, it's not just money, it's money. Okay, it's a lot. And yes, it could be harming the economy. I mean, look, they have, hold on, I think they have, what do I have? So Izzy gets about $1.3 billion oil sales. Like this is what Azerbaijan is doing. This is what Turkey is involved. And as I said, Turkey has a bigger plan. And yeah, you could say because they have like I think 5 or 6 more clients. They have more customers. Izzy is not the only customer where that receives the oil from through these pipelines. There's actually others, but 40% is really big. It's really, really big. So they cannot say as of yet, no. Of course, Gaza to them is a great excuse, but it's definitely a power move, because they're gearing up now for a power shift, maybe with a little bit of violence involved, because there's rumors that they're building more like, bunkers and whatnot. And, like Turkey has a very strong military as well. So, and they're trying to build more influence on Syria as well. We talked about the deal that they made with the government, like to supply them with the army with more military equipment and everything. And I don't know, like allegedly Syria wants the Turkish cover. And so, yes, Ahmed al-Shara even said a no to normalization with Israel. After all, he's not going to sign the Abrahamic Accord. I mean, it's haram to sign the Abrahamic Accord, Mr. al-Shara, but okay, whatever. There's so many other things that are haram as well, right? So now what did they do? Israel is instrumentalizing the Druze in the south, of course, because these people are, I guess, easily to mobilize and influence, and they are now trying to destabilize that place. Okay, and Turkey wants influence on that area. That was always the case. And should it come to a military confrontation, the economy is not going to suffer anymore, because they already cut the trades, like they cut the trade goods with the trading goods with Israel already. So now they have to just acclimatize and get used to the new situation. And, there is like, there's like enough time now to get used to it, to the new situation, to come to terms with it. Turkey is, after all, it's very liberal, but it's after all still a Turkish state, and the people in there are very much pro-Palestine. So of course, this is something that is very, 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 very interesting, because now there is going to be a global South resource redirection. Because it's now like a whole, it's like rivaling with the West. China is in there. All of these countries are in there. Like there was like a security meeting recently, China and India making moves. Who would have thought that? They're kind of like signing deals and making deals and having conversations and everything. And there is, the Turkey is very interested to create a new leadership in the world, instead of just like the global West. Yeah, they are part of NATO, but at the end of the day, everybody has their own agenda, and according to them, there needs to be a military industrial industry shift in the global south and in the world, so to speak. And there's another big player in South Asia that is under fire at the moment right now, and that is Indonesia. Jakarta is under fire, some other cities as well, but it's crazy in Jakarta as well. And guess what? People are being heavily silent in Indonesia. People are not, social media platforms are being shut down, in the sense of like blocked, like people cannot go live to show what's really going on. There's protests happening against the government. Yo, let me tell you guys, there's protests in so many countries for the same reason: cost of living spiking, like going up, inflation, like people cannot afford to live anymore. And this is something that makes people very resentful. I had a conversation with a white guy yesterday. He was telling me that he lives by himself with his son, and he can barely afford to live by himself because of Muslim people coming into the country. Bruh. So how is that then that people in Kenya have been protesting and been assassinated by the police? The same thing happened in Nigeria. Literally, people are protesting everywhere. Serbia is protesting. Now Indonesia is protesting. There is a 250% of tax raise. Ain't that crazy? 250%? Where are you going, bro? While government officials are getting thousands in parks. Like they get like some play money, and everybody else is saying like, but we get broke. Like we're broke. Like we can't afford life anymore here. You know? It's crazy. Oh, and by the way, Jakarta is the capital of Indonesia, but they're relocating it to a new city called Nusantara. That's just like side note. Now, as I said, the people are protesting the government, and it's actually really going crazy because the police obviously is getting involved, and there's clashes and everything. There's also a rise of unemployment. But what happened, why it got actually more violent than it was already, is there was a 21-year-old called Irfan. He was not even participating in these protests. He was working. He was a food delivery guy, okay? And he was actually on his way to deliver food when he was ran over by a police car, and not once, twice. And 650, still counting, by the way, okay, people were arrested as well. And you guys might think like, okay, well, this is what happens in Indonesia. But mind you, know that if there is something going down like this in any country or in most countries of the world, it impacts the global, the whole globe, basically. Okay? Like, for example, Indonesia is a huge market, especially to the US. China is also very interested in Indonesia as well. Indonesia is very strategic where it is. We're going to get to this in a second. But they have also like interesting resources, you know, for the China, for the US, for the whole world. They have palm oil, they have natural gas, they have coal, and they have nickel, which is important for electronics. And China is big in electronics, so they're going to be interested in that whatsoever. You know what I mean? And then the reason why it's so strategic, because there is the Malacca Strait. This is like a very important route for trade, and it goes through Indonesian waters. And this is something that is so important. Like this Malacca Strait is very important because it connects the Indian Ocean with the Pacific Ocean. So a lot of the trade goes through that water. And it hits Indonesia because it's between the Malay Peninsula and an Indonesian island called Sumatra. Okay? So this is why it's very strategic, and it's why very important. And it does affect the global economy when there is outbreaks.
Yesterday, on August 28th, 2025, Afan Kurniawan was killed because he was ran over by a heavily armored police vehicle. The very same vehicle that was funded and bought by Indonesian tax money, our money.
And this is why they try to censor these people. That's why they try to shut down social media, because they don't want it to get out, because it affects the currency. All the investors are pulling out. It affects tourism because now there's travel bans on Indonesia. It does also affect the stock market. There's so many reasons. There's so many reasons why this is not a good look. And mind you, Indonesia is a so-called democracy. Hilarious. I feel like we're doing geography this week because I'm going to talk about another country again.
Somalia should sue Britain for at least $100 billion because Britain deliberately destroyed Somalia's economy to protect its other colonies. They dismantled the Mogadishu-Villa Bruzzi railway, which carried bananas, cotton and sugar. Without it, exports collapsed. They blocked the Berbera-Harar railway because they wanted Aden and Djibouti to stay the main trade hubs, not Somali ports. They killed Somalia's cotton industry because it threatened British cotton from Egypt and India. They blocked Somali sugar projects to protect sugar from Mauritius and the Caribbean.
We talked about, oh my gosh, we talked about so many different countries, but it's important. I feel like this is not talked about enough and people need to know. People need to know. So when I feel like, okay, anyways, let's get to it. Let's get to Somalia. Ever wondered why Somalia is actually struggling like that, apart from the fact that it is in Africa and so on and so forth? But it's very interesting because Somalia was deliberately destroyed by Britain. So let's talk about it, okay? It was colonized by Britain, okay? The north of it was colonized by Britain. Yeah, from 1884 to 1960. And the southern part of Somalia was occupied by Italy, as some of you might know. And this happened from 1889. So 5 years later, the Italians came over to the south and took over till 1960 when Somalia got its independence, okay? And during the Second World War from 1941 to 1950, it was under military and anti-British military, okay? And from 1950 till 1960, till it got its independence, it was under UN and Italian administration. Insane, right? Absolutely insane. So in order to, in order to protect its other in order to protect its other colonial projects like India, Kenya, Zambia, and so on and so forth, they had to destroy Somalia. So they discouraged agriculture, they destroyed it fully, they didn't, they suppressed meat plants, they destroyed manufacturers, they had limited frankincense and myrrh. They didn't allow anything to be processed locally. They just basically came and took everything after destroying everything, and whatever was growing, whatever was still available, they just took it because they didn't want the people to have anything. They neglected ports and railways, so there was nothing there going on. They limited gum, the export of many things. They destroyed the wool factory because they wanted their colonial projects that they had to succeed, because they were taking from them as well. And Somalia has just had its independent, and they didn't want it to flourish whatsoever. So, and this is why there are voices that you can hear here, like saying the UK should be sued, right? And Somalia is in a talks a lot right now because guess what? Israel is meddling and mixing up all up in there. When Somalia got its independency, both parts, the South and the North, united again. But now Somaliland wants its own state. It wants to be recognized. It wants to be recognized by the West. So they have Israel like in there building military bases and so on and so forth. Again, it's another strategic location, you know, for the Western powers. And that's why they're even you know, considering it and talking about certain countries recognizing Somaliland. Okay. And so that's why I was like, okay, let me look some more into Somalia. I mean, it's not like I knew much about it. And when I saw that, I'm like, okay, makes sense. Makes sense. And Somalia is still not able to really fully recover, which is big shame. But again, they still don't let it because once again, unfortunately, we have sometimes leaders who have more the ego. They hold their ego more important than the country. Let's talk about Sudan. We know the situation in Sudan has been absolutely terrific and disgusting, horrific, I should say, disgusting, terrifying, atrocious. Okay, what the UAE funding the RSF and everything that's been happening. The government was able in March of this year to liberate Khartoum. But now the demining of Khartoum has started, which is a whole process because now they have to get rid of all of the explosives, all of the weapons that are still in there, all of this ammunition and all of the dangerous devices that are still in the city and could create real danger for the civilians who started going back, you know. And there were already 49 people injured. And there is an organization that is taking care of all of this, the Sudan Demining Center organization. They are like going through the city and it's a very tedious job. It's very, very difficult because they really have to make sure that they find all of these explosives and detonate them. They have to remove all of the leftovers of weapons and everything. And it's not really easy. It's a very tedious job. So shout out to them. Shout out to Sudan. Shout out to resilience. And inshallah, peace will be soon.
Hello, everyone.
Let's move over to Gaza one more time. We have to highlight something beautiful here. And that is a music teacher. Okay. Ahmad Muain Abu Amsha. Okay, he's a music teacher and he used this drone sound, you know, this horrible drone sounds that the people in Gaza call the soundtrack of Gaza. He used it to create a song with. This is an old song. He didn't make it up himself. He harmonized it differently, made it differently. He sung it, harmonized well to the drone sound. And this is what creativity does. This is what resilient people do, right?
Today there's a lot of drones.
These people would have every right to victimize themselves like Izzy Wood does, right? But instead, they find different ways to cope, different ways. And he says that. He says they try to help to you know, ease off some of the trauma, some of the atrocities, you know, that these people are actually going through. So he created this whole thing called GBS, Gaza Burns Singing. And he has a team that kind of like through music therapy help the kids take off their mind of what's going on and forget the genocide for a second. That is absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And last but not least, I want to close this episode with something that is very important. And I'm going to say this, and there might be people who don't get why I say this and who don't get why I feel this way, but I'm just going to say it and not care. And that is, you guys, I'm a Muslim, alhamdulillah. And I feel sorry, extremely sorry and extremely bad for the Palestinian Christians, the Syrian Christians, the Lebanese Christians, and all the Middle Eastern Christians, Jordanian, everyone, Egyptians, whatever, any Arab Christians, because these people are not recognized by their fellow Christians. These people are not recognized by the majority of the Christian population. And we needed to see a Christian nun that lives there, that lives in Palestine, to come and speak to Tucker Carlson so that we had some Christian people wake up or realize what's going on. And I don't even know if they woken up or if they just felt bad for a couple of hours and then moved on. I don't know. I have no idea. But I just don't understand how you guys, okay, cannot care about monumental churches, monumental sites, Christian sites being destroyed. How can you guys not care about it? How can you guys not care about that there are Christians, just because they might look different, some of them, that they don't count? I'm sorry, but that's disgusting. So I'm going to close this episode out with a very important message from a Christian Palestinian by the name of Rafa. And with that said, guys, I'm out of here. I want to say thank you again for tuning in, wherever you're tuning in from. And I am excited for next week. And let's see what we have and what we're going to talk about and what's going to happen. Until then, keep it sweet, stay informed, and stay real. Assalamu alaikum.